Nissan was one of the first manufacturers to tap into the public's latent desire for high-riding crossovers and SUVs. The Duke and the Qashqai were both in showrooms before most manufacturers had any chance to come up with anything even remotely similar. The Qashqai is the archetype family SUV now. It features regularly among the list of the top 10 best-selling cars in the UK. But the previous generation model, that launched way back in 2014 and is well overdue an update. An update like this.
Yes, this is the new Nissan Qashqai, and there's no doubt it's an eye-catching car. The slim LED lights, angular surfaces, and Nissan's V-Motion grille see to that, as does our car's 20-inch alloy wheels and ceramic grey paint with optional, contrasting black roof. The sheer volume of competent cars in this part of the market means the Qashqai does, of course, have to do more than just look good, with rivals like the Hyundai Tucson, Ford Kuga, Volkswagen Tiguan and Peugeot 3008 all offering buyers reasons to look elsewhere. The Qashqai not only has more competition than when it first launched, but it's competition that's now stronger than ever.
So how do things compare in here, in the cabin, against all the usual alternatives? Well, it's a bit of a mixed bag really. The fit and the finish, the materials, they're all nice enough, but it's not the most exciting cabin. If you look at something like the latest Hyundai Tucson, that's just a bit more exciting, it's got a bit more about it. This is just a bit dull and a bit dour. Then there's the Volkswagen Tiguan, and while that's not exciting, it's got a certain class, a certain sophistication to it. Oh, if we're talking about class and sophistication, then you should really subscribe to the Car Buyer YouTube channel. Hit the bell icon so you never miss a video, and make sure you give this one a thumbs up. Moving on, you've got the digital dials behind the steering wheel. Those have become something of an expectation rather than a luxury in this part of the market, so it's worth noting that you don't get them as standard on the bottom two trim levels. They're 12.3 inches, and while they're configurable enough, the resolution and the graphics, they're not the sharpest. That's also true of this 9-inch display you get in Tecna Plus models in the middle here. It's big enough, but the resolution's not great and the interface just feels really old-fashioned. Elsewhere though, you do get wireless phone charging plus Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and in this top model you get quilted leather seats. Practicality is obviously a really important consideration for anyone buying a family SUV, and this Qashqai gets a new platform and a new body, so it is a bit better in that regard. Take these rear doors for example, they open so wide, which makes it really easy to chuck stuff in and, if you're a parent like I am, to get stuff or people out.
Space in the back is officially better than before. Legroom and shoulder room are up 20mm and 28mm respectively, and you can feel it. There's enough space for a 6-foot tall adult to get relatively comfortable. The transmission tunnel is small too, so you might not even mind sitting 3 abreast. There are 2 Isofix points for child seats and an armrest in the centre that folds down to offer a couple of cup holders. Storage around the cabin is pretty good, and these rear seats fold down in a 60-40 split.
Nissan has broken the 500-litre mark with the boot of this new Qashqai, which is important considering that some rivals like the Tucson offer more than 600. But that's not the end of the world, because it's actually still a really useful area, and you get a movable boot floor, some tie-down points, and if you fold the seats down, you've got 1,593 litres to play with.
The Qashqai comes in 5 trim levels, starting with Vizier and moving up through a Centre Premium, N-Connector, Tecna, and finally the range-topping Tecna Plus. The Vizier model looks and feels pretty basic, so we'd recommend upgrading to at least a Centre Premium. Mid-range N-Connector is the sweet spot though, as you get the largest infotainment screen, the digital dials, 18-inch alloy wheels and a range of other nice extras. The 2 Tecna trims have plenty of equipment but are quite expensive. As ever, for a comprehensive rundown of this car's trim levels, head to our full review on our website. Just search for Nissan Qashqai at carbuyer.co.uk.
The changes made under the bonnet are actually less significant than the ones made elsewhere. You see, the engine range is actually simpler than it was in the old car. You get no diesel engines, just a single 1.3 litre petrol with either 138 or 156 brake horsepower. The biggest difference is that now there is mild hybrid technology across the entire range, which should improve fuel economy. We've got the more powerful model here, which does 0 to 62 miles an hour in 9.5 seconds. It's not lightning fast, but it's not particularly slow either, especially given how most family SUV buyers are going to be driving their cars. And for such a small engine, it's pretty smooth and quite quiet as well. The range-topping models are available with an automatic gearbox and 4-wheel drive, but we wouldn't bother going for either of those. The 6-speed manual, it's not the most precise gearbox in the world, but the automatic isn't any better to drive, and it only really adds to the cost. Four-wheel drive as well, most buyers of this kind of car not going to be able to justify that one.
Our car manages 43.6 mpg with CO2 emissions of 146 grams per kilometre, and the economy of the less powerful model will be virtually identical in the real world. Another reason not to go for four-wheel drive unless you desperately need it is it has a negative effect on fuel consumption. An e-Power hybrid Qashqai is due in 2022, and it's a shame it isn't available immediately when so many rivals are already offered as both hybrids and plug-in hybrids, not to mention fully electric models. Based around a 1.5 litre petrol engine and an electric motor, the e-Power model promises an MPG figure in the 50s and lower CO2 emissions, which will make the Qashqai slightly more attractive as a company car.
There are comparisons to be made about what I was saying earlier about the interior and the way this car feels to drive. It's competent, but it's not particularly exciting. A Ford Kuga or a Mazda CX-5 are better in that regard, even if this new Qashqai is more agile than the one that went before. The range-topping models do get a more sophisticated rear suspension setup, which makes the car feel more stable at higher speeds. But again, we wonder how many Qashqai buyers are actually going to exploit that. What they want to know is whether or not this car is comfortable enough. And it's true that the bigger wheels on our car do make the ride fidget a little. If you really like them and you love the style of the bigger wheels, we test drive one before taking the plunge. I don't want to give you the impression this car is uncomfortable or bad to drive. It's just that you expect something a little bit more noteworthy when a new car comes out, and there's just not really anything to get excited about in this new Qashqai. You can forgive the fact it's not the sportiest car in its class, but neither is it the most economical or the most comfortable. It's just adequate.
Right, let's have some deal makers and deal breakers for the Nissan Qashqai. The Qashqai was long overdue a styling update, and it now looks really striking, particularly from the front. There's more room inside and the boot is much bigger than the one in the old model. All Qashqai engine options will come with some form of electrification to improve the car's efficiency. The fit and finish of the interior is good, but the design is a little bland and the screen graphics could be better. There are already loads of pure electric plug-in hybrid and hybrid SUVs on the market, so it's a shame the hybrid Qashqai isn't available until 2022. The Qashqai is decidedly so-so to drive, and several rivals are better in this department.
Taken in isolation, this new Qashqai is a perfectly serviceable, practical and competent family car, and it looks good and it should prove affordable to buy and to run. It's a certain improvement on the old model. The thing is, it's not 2007 anymore. When that car launched way back then, it was on its own. It had the market to itself. But since then, rivals come along and they are so much better. They have moved the game on. If you're sold on the way this thing looks, then I'm pleased to report there probably won't be many complaints when it comes to owning or running one of these new Qashqais. But for a car that basically invented the crossover segment, I wanted more for this third generation Qashqai than something that just slotted in somewhere into the middle of the pack.
If you like this video, then why not watch our review of the Hyundai Tucson or our family SUVs playlist. Thanks for watching.